So I'm going to begin with what I said about how the reason I do the game is to bring down a notch and create a vibe in the room. Because now everybody feels comfortable. Yes, no, maybe so. It's too early to tell.
Be comfortable, girl.
All right. So, and communication is very important. First impression, they always say, is the lasting impression, which is true. So, think about, let's go right into it, ways we communicate. I'm an interactive, so we won't just be sitting here looking at me. Give me 3 ways communication, main communication. Anybody?
Non-verbal.
Non-verbal. What's the other one? There you go, body language. So those are 3 main things that I'll be dealing with. And we all know that people who can give off some heck of non-verbal communication and body language. Those are the 2 probably unspoken but the worst communication that people interact with. Verbal, we tend to hold our tongue because we older. In holding your tongue is where the verbal and the behavioral comes in, because you're holding your tongue, but your body and your non-body language, your non-verbal is speaking because you're quiet. So we always tell, oh, bite your tongue down if you don't got nothing nice to say. So I'm gonna unteach that. It's a way to communicate that. So let's start with right here. I'm gonna go with you. So don't be offended. Like when we rocking, she's rocking. So that, to me, you self-soothing, but maybe somebody else may be like, oh, maybe she kind of want to be in her own zone. And, we don't realize sometimes what we're speaking because of where we are mentally. And it's a domino effect on people. So how many people consider themselves warm and inviting on first communication? Anybody?
You said warming and inviting?
Mm-hmm. You think so?
I think so.
With that crown. How many people, okay, how many people feel like, I gotta warm up to you first before I and how many people feel like, nope, it's gonna take me some time, I'm all the way back here, unless you're talking to me. So, and I'm sure the people who stand all the way in the back, probably people be like, oh, they mean until you really get to know you, and then you're probably the nicest person ever. So how can we work on that? Because professionally, we all know how to be professional, right? Well, no, I take that back. Everybody don't. How can we help communicate our non-verbal, and our silent behavior a little better? How many people are really aware of their behavior? So do you intentionally give off that vibe, depending on the vibe you give? Okay. So I'm gonna give an example of domino effect with intention, since we went that way. So Thursday, some people might have heard the story in the room already. I was at work. It's a secretary. She going through some personal stuff, whatever, I don't know. Bad day, period. So her vibe completely shut the room down, but people were pushing past it. Then she communicated with the boss, the manager, and her response was so like, when people say something, you be like, oh, okay, that's how we're going today. Like you said, standoffish, right? So everybody in the meeting, normally it's a laughing meeting, and people laugh and joke throughout the meeting. Nobody joking, everybody quiet. So it was a horrible hour. And so that in turn took the 5 people that were in that meeting, all that negativity took them, and they went and affected other people with that one toxic encounter. So one person messed with 5 other people, but those 5 people, except for me, because I go, push past you, but I have my days too. Those 5 people probably like half through the but they were like calling to talk about, you know, what happened, because they realized they were having negative encounters with their patients. Because everything they seen was getting on their nerves from that, you know, moment forward. So you think one person affected 5 people, those 5 people went out to see patients, and we're just gonna say 5 people that they encountered. So right there, one person affected 10 people, that quick. So we don't wanna consider ourselves toxic, but that's what happened when we shut down from the world. So we have to learn how to communicate and recognize our own space, because it's okay to have a bad day. I actually pulled the young lady to the side and said to her, "You acting like a choo-choo train with smoke right now, coming out your ears." And she was like, what does that mean? I said, well, metaphorically speaking. She was like, I thought trains were a smooth ride. I said, no, the metro is, you the train that caused everybody a headache, because we got to sit here and wait for you to pass. And sometimes that's how we are. We the choo-choo train that gotta, you know, that's making everybody else wait till we pass, because most people have a strong, dominant personality. Most people, even if you quiet, your body language can be dominant. Even if you're the most mildest person ever, like me, I'm very outgoing, but I'm also an introvert. When I'm not feeling the best, many people in this room can attest that my whole demeanor changes, and you can recognize when I can't hide something, because I kind of, you know, shut down. I do try to remove myself the older I become, because I realize in that moment I'm toxic. So how many of people can realize that about themselves, or want to admit to it right now? Okay. Anybody else at this study? Y'all right. So the point of that, me saying is what's some way that we can stop being toxic? Because you can't control nobody else's communication. So the point of toxic communication is, how do we control us? And the other people gonna be who they gonna be. How do you not let that toxic communication affect you? And how do you not let your toxic communication affect other people?
You think before you react.
That's so easy to say.
Okay, well,
It's so easy to
well,
say.
practice makes perfect.
How many really practice that?
I'm trying.
How many? What else? Somebody?
Oh, go ahead. Not to speak out of anger.
Yeah, not to speak out of anger. But when you angry and you quiet it, your body's speaking. Because how many people, you like, you know what, especially coworkers, or even family members, I'm gonna say family members too. How many people you mad at them and you just like, yeah. I had an encounter this morning, and my mind actually spoke out my thought, like I didn't even intend it, but I was like, damn, the devil early today. The person was walking to me. I don't think they heard me, but because I've had toxic encounters with the person, my mind automatically, you know, picked it up, spoke it out, before I realized it. So I'm happy they didn't hear me, because that could have ruined their day. It could have, you know, being honest. Easy to say things before you react. It's easy to say don't speak in anger, but the body's speaking in anger. How many have ever tried to process in their mind internally, first your own self, when you get up in the morning and maybe you have gone through a rough day? I know the guy code is a little different, because they internalize and just don't talk about it and think communicating is a girl thing. But it's not, because and this is not ganging up on guys, but guys internalize things and they're quiet, but it affects the mood if you normally be a talkative person. So that affects other people, because they're like, okay, well, they being funny, or what's wrong? And women are investigative. They want to say, well, what's going on? And they like, I don't want to talk about it. Ain't nothing wrong. And you know,
said sometimes women can be too invested.
That's true.
I believe like we need our space.
True.
Y'all need to know that.
Ooh, put me in my place early in the morning. But that's a good thing right there. Can you communicate that? How can you communicate that without like, no, I'm good. I'm good. Like, you know, and this is stuff I want you guys to be able to take back to other people. So from a guy perspective, how can you communicate that? Whether it's, you know, coworker, you know, relationship, whatever.
I mean, I guess we can explain what's on our mind and how we're feeling, but it comes a point in time we have to be willing to have that conversation. We're not willing to have that conversation right away. When a guy gets mad or emotional, he's more so distant because he's thinking of solutions on how to fix the problem rather than just to deal with it right away. He's game plan. He's step A, step B, step C. So he's not. That's why we're not so engaged in communicating when we're dealing with problems, because we're trying to figure it out. Once we figure it out, we'll let y'all know how we're feeling.
I'm glad you said that.
Okay.
Wait a minute, it's not gang up on me now.
Everything he just said is not all men, because I look at it in a way of, I sit back and I observe. And I pretty much try to fill that person out to see where that, then I try to meet them at that level, and then we go from there.
But what about when you dealing with something? Because we're talking about when you dealing with something yourself. And, you know, like, most, and not just me and women too, they shut down and they don't, like you said, they process them and then they leave it.
I'm processing it, but in the same sense, I'm still not, I feel like I'm not throwing off the vibe where you can see it, but I don't.
He's saying that, and for the most part, women, we're investigators and we're overbearing. We want to see, we don't know. We're going to keep on until you tell us something for the most part. We're like that, but you made a good point about that. You know, we don't want to, I don't want to look at things like that, but that's a very good point, because men deal with things differently than women do.
Yeah. But like you made a point, what you just said too. Like, you don't think you're giving off that vibe, but sometimes you do. And not knowingly though, because you like in your own space. We all get kind of locked in our space.
I'm sorry, that's most, I mean, that's just, I think
It's not
that's
a
just
sex
normal.
thing,
It's just most people, but in the same sense, it's still people. I like to say I can sit back and just see where a person is at, and then I try to meet them at that level, and then I just go, you know.
Yeah, for the most part, I can say that. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead, I'm sorry, somebody else. Ms. Carter, what you saying? I heard what you said. Anybody else want to add to that?
I think that if anyone wants to become a better communicator, then it starts with your being cognizant of your behavior, being aware, and then you have to be very intentional about changing the way you communicate. And I say that because I'm listening and I'm saying, oh man, you have really grown since, since before. Because I know about myself when I get very upset, I won't say anything because in my head I'm saying all types of things. And back in the day, whatever was in my head was coming right on out my mouth. But what I do now is I have to stop and I have to process what's going on, and then I have to address it because there's no way I'm gonna keep it in the inside. But I'm figuring out how to address it in an intelligent manner where I'm not, starting anything or trying to start some confusion or anything like that. So that's how I deal with it. I just stop and I process it, and then I try to go and have an intelligent conversation about it. So I just think you have to be very intentional if you want to be a better communicator. Just be aware of your actions, and then just be intentional about doing better.
That's great. That's a good point. That's my point. Stop learning where you at. Because you also made another good point. You have to get it out. Because I am a person, sometimes I'm much better, thanks to my friend, of communicating. Because I was either, I'm going to tell you what I feel and I'm done with it, and I'm not emotional about what I say. But what I would fail to realize is the effect I was having on the other person. Or I was the opposite, where I would just shut down. And when shutting down doesn't help either, because it's like, well, the person doesn't even know that they were affected or you affected them any kind of way. And you got this little animosity, even though we say we don't, we do, that's unresolved. Whether it's anger, sadness, hurt, whatever, we don't process it. So it's very key to process, but it's also picking a time to process. So if you know, like, the person may not be receptive, like you said, you may be at an adult level, but the other person may not be. So how you dealing with that? Because you can't always talk to people, point blank, because people are people and they're going to be who they're going to be. And there is nothing you can do about to change that. So how do you take that toxic communication they got going on and help yourself? Because I know for myself, there are some people, their spirits just irritate me point blank, and ain't no getting around it. But I had to learn, and what I've come to conclude is perception. So what I had to learn to do was create a perception of maybe where that person is coming from, to give them that room, but more so for myself, so I can be in a healthier place. A prime example is yesterday, a young lady called me. Her father didn't call her for her birthday. Well, self-disclosure, my dad, and this is not bashing my dad at all, because he's always been in my life, I don't have daddy issues. But he did not call me for my past birthday. So I was able to tell her, you know, sometimes people get older, they forget, or maybe they just haven't arrived out of being selfish. And for youth, that's hard to hear, because you think, well, he grown, I'm, 22 in her case, why not? So I was able to step out and tell her, like, well, think about it. Sometimes men have daughters and they're intimidated by daughters, not in a negative way, but it can be scary raising a child. Children don't come with a manual. And because he's made some of the mistakes with you, he might be scared to come back around with that. So it's not always about he's literally trying to be mean and forget you. Now, maybe he is, but I don't think so, just because I know the person. But giving her that different perception took that negative impact from her. And she was able to walk away saying, you know what, I'm going to just call him instead. Now, it takes a lot for us to initiate when we feel wrong. That's the hardest thing to do. But that's the easiest way to take control of a toxic situation. The chair is open for anybody to go over there. I'll go ahead. So, does that make sense to everybody? So, how, moving forward, how could you deal with individuals you can't change? That's a good point, give it to God. But we always pick it back up from God for those who are believers. We'll say we give it, but we pick it back up until we finally give it.
I don't know if it's good or not.
Go ahead.
Like with me working around with teachers, they tend to come in from a different place all the time. And it's one in particular that I have to stay away from her because she throws off negative vibes every morning. So I find for myself, instead of being in her presence because it throws me off, I just try not to see her. I don't know if it's right or not, but it helps me to be able to go on with my day and still, do well with the kids.